When Jane discovered Toby, her lively golden retriever, refusing to leave the bed for an entire week, her worry started to grow. Normally a bundle of energy, Toby appeared unusually lethargic, and no amount of coaxing or treats could get him to budge. Desperate to uncover what was troubling her furry friend, Jane decided to take a closer look at his peculiar behavior. Little did she know, the revelation awaiting her would bring tears to her eyes. What she discovered left her stunned and emotional. She had never expected something like this. Normally energetic, Toby appeared lethargic, and no amount of coaxing or treats could get him to budge. Jane's heart ached, seeing her furry companion so uncharacteristically still. She tried his favorite toys, tempting him with treats, but nothing seemed to work. With each passing day, Jane's anxiety grew. She wondered if he was sick or injured, but physical checks showed nothing unusual. It was like he had lost his spark, and she was determined to find out why. Desperate to uncover what was troubling her furry friend, Jane decided to take a closer look at his behavior. She started observing his every move, noting how he scarcely lifted his head and hardly wagged his tail. Instead of bounding off the bed in the mornings, Toby remained curled up. This was beyond odd for him. Jane tried to see if there was something specific in the room he was reacting to, but nothing obvious stood out. Little did she know, the revelation awaiting her would bring tears to her eyes. Jane leaned in close, trying to understand why he was so insistent on staying put. She gently lifted the blanket, hoping for a clue. Beneath it, she found a tiny baby squirrel nestled against Toby. The sight was both heartwarming and heart-wrenching. Toby had been guarding this little creature all along, unwilling to leave it vulnerable and alone. What she discovered left her stunned and emotional. She had never expected something like this. Tears welled up in Jane's eyes as she watched Toby tenderly nuzzle the baby squirrel. It was as if Toby had adopted the little creature, setting aside his own needs to protect it. The bond between them was unmistakable. Jane could hardly believe her eyes. It seemed like something out of a storybook. Jane began to worry about Toby's health, despite his appearance of physical well-being. Even though Toby looked fine, his behavior was unusual, and now with the discovery of the baby squirrel, Jane feared he might be neglecting his own needs. She was touched by Toby's protective instincts, but her concern for both animals grew. Would he refuse to eat and drink? Was he stressing himself out by caring for the tiny creature? She decided to monitor him more closely, tracking his behavior and routines. Jane began keeping a diary, noting every little thing Toby did and didn't do. She watched how he interacted with the squirrel, how often he ate, and any changes in his mood or energy levels. Jane made sure fresh water and food were always nearby, hoping he would eventually take care of himself as well. Her concern for her loyal friend was growing by the day. Jane recalled the last time Toby had acted strangely, trying to find a pattern or trigger. She sifted through memories, remembering moments where Toby had been unusually quiet or distant. Could it be something he sensed, or a previous experience affecting him now? Maybe there was a link she hadn't noticed before. The process of searching her memories gave her a deeper appreciation of Toby's complexities, but no definitive answers. Unable to find clear answers, Jane contemplated taking Toby to the vet for a thorough checkup. She hoped a professional might discern what was going on with her normally energetic friend. Maybe there was an underlying issue she was overlooking, something only a vet could spot. The thought of putting Toby through tests didn't sit well with her, but Jane's worry outweighed her hesitation. It was clear that something had to be done. Jane scheduled an appointment with the vet, hoping to find an explanation for Toby's behavior. The vet visit couldn't come soon enough. Jane watched the clock, anxious but hopeful for answers. She spent the waiting time ensuring Toby and the baby squirrel were as comfortable as possible. Despite her worries, Jane felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps the vet would shed light on Toby's peculiar behavior, solving the mystery once and for all. At the vet's office, Jane explained Toby's unusual behavior and her growing concern. She described how her normally energetic golden retriever had refused to leave the bed for a week and how she had discovered him guarding a baby squirrel under the blanket. The vet listened intently, jotting down notes and asking a few questions about Toby's daily habits and changes in behaviour. Jane hoped he could offer some clarity. The vet conducted a thorough examination, checking for any signs of illness or distress. He carefully inspected Toby's eyes, ears, and overall physical condition. Blood tests were taken, and the vet listened to his heartbeat and breathing. Toby remained calm throughout the examination, which both reassured and concerned Jane. She had hoped Toby's visit would provide answers. As the vet completed his checks, he seemed deep in thought, considering what could be wrong. All tests returned normal, leaving Jane both relieved and puzzled about what could be affecting Toby. The vet handed her the results, highlighting that physically, Toby was in excellent shape. Jane's relief was quickly overshadowed by confusion. If there were no medical issues, what could explain Toby's odd behaviour? The vet sensed her frustration and began discussing other possibilities, hinting that sometimes behaviours stem from more than just physical ailments. The vet suggested that Toby might be stressed or anxious about something in his environment. Stress in dogs could manifest in various ways, and staying close to the bed might be a coping mechanism. He advised Jane to consider any recent changes at home or unusual events that could be affecting Toby's mental well-being. The vet recommended monitoring Toby's behaviour and keeping an eye out for any environmental triggers. Jane left the vet's office with a sense of uncertainty, unsure how to help Toby without knowing the cause of his behaviour. She appreciated the vet's suggestions but felt no closer to a solution. As she drove home, Jane replayed the vet's words in her mind, thinking of possible stresses. Her worry for Toby's well-being mingled with determination to understand what was going on with him and to find a solution. Determined to find answers, Jane began observing Toby more closely at home. She watched his every move, hoping to find clues that might explain his strange behaviour. Jane noted how often Toby checked the bed and stayed alert, but she also began paying attention to their surroundings. She wondered if something in the environment was causing his anxiety. Her mission to uncover the truth about Toby's behaviour became more critical each day. She noticed small, subtle signs, tiny scratches on the floor and faint noises at night. These minor details hadn't seemed important before, but now they felt like important pieces of a larger puzzle. Jane realised Toby's behaviour often changed around the same times each day. Several thoughts crossed her mind, and she knew she had to dig deeper. It was the only way to figure out the mystery behind her loyal golden retriever's actions. Jane realised Toby was more alert than usual during specific times of the day. His ears would perk up, and he'd stare intently at certain spots, his body rigid with focus. Jane noted these observations, trying to connect the dots. It seemed like Toby's heightened awareness was not random. There was a pattern. Knowing this, Jane felt closer to finding out what was causing his distress. She needed to investigate further. She suspected there might be a small creature that was affecting Toby's behaviour. Perhaps something had taken up residence nearby, and Toby felt the need to protect his domain. The idea of a critter causing Toby's anxiety made sense given his protective nature. Jane started considering ways to confirm this theory. She wanted to catch whatever it was to finally put an end to Toby's stress and return him to his playful self. Jane set up a camera in her bedroom to monitor Toby while she was at work. The idea was to capture any movement or activity that could explain his behaviour. She positioned the camera to have a clear view of the bed and its surroundings, hoping it would provide some insight. With the camera in place, Jane felt a mix of anticipation and dread. Would it finally reveal what was bothering Toby? Or would the mystery continue? She reviewed the footage and saw Toby carefully arranging his bed and seemingly communicating with something hidden under the covers. It was apparent that Toby was not just lying there passively. He was attentive and deliberate in his actions. Every now and then, he would nudge the bedding with his nose or paws as if trying to comfort or check on something. Jane's curiosity was piqued, and she realized this behavior warranted a closer look. Jane tried to rationalize what she had seen, still unsure what was causing Toby's unusual behavior. Was there something under the bed that he was protecting? She couldn't understand why a typically carefree dog would act this way. She wondered if he might have found an injured animal, or if there was some other explanation for his guarding. Despite her confusion, Jane knew she had to investigate further to ease her worry. Moving cautiously, Jane decided to investigate under the bed herself one weekend. She wanted to avoid startling Toby or whatever might be hiding there. Slowly, she approached the bed and knelt down. Taking a deep breath, she carefully lifted the blanket, ready for anything. Her heart pounded with both fear and anticipation. What she found would either put her concerns to rest or open a new chapter of mysteries. With gentle coaxing and lifting the sheets, she discovered a tiny baby squirrel nestled comfortably. The little creature was resting peacefully, looking fragile and vulnerable. Jane's initial shock was followed by a wave of realization. Here was the source of Toby's unusual behavior. She marveled at how the squirrel appeared so at ease, suggesting it trusted Toby completely. It was remarkable how nature's instincts played out right under her nose. The squirrel appeared very young and fragile, clearly in need of care and protection. It had likely lost its mother and found an unlikely guardian in Toby. Jane realized the baby squirrel couldn't have survived long without someone tending to it. Its tiny body and delicate features tugged at her heartstrings. She knew that it needed warmth, food, and a safe environment to have any chance of growing up healthy. Jane was initially stunned and confused by her discovery. How had a baby squirrel ended up in Toby's bed? She couldn't wrap her mind around it at first. Her thoughts raced as she considered the possibilities and the steps she needed to take next. Why had Toby taken it upon himself to protect this little creature? The whole situation felt surreal, but Jane knew she had to act sensibly. She quickly realized that Toby had been nurturing and protecting the baby squirrel the entire time. His reluctance to leave the bed now made perfect sense. Toby had adopted the tiny creature and taken on the role of caregiver without hesitation. Jane's admiration for her loyal dog grew immensely. It was incredible to see such innate compassion and kindness from an animal. Toby's gentle spirit shone through in his dedication. Jane's heart swelled with admiration for Toby's compassion and instinctive kindness. She couldn't believe how much care and tenderness he had shown. This simple act of protecting a helpless baby squirrel revealed so much about Toby's character. Jane found herself overwhelmed with emotion, feeling both proud and humbled by her dog's actions. It was clear that Toby's heart was as golden as his fur, and his loyalty extended beyond what she had known. She took a moment to process the unexpected turn her worry had taken. Sitting on the floor, Jane let the situation sink in fully. The stress and anxiety that had gripped her for days were now replaced with a sense of wonder and gratitude. She glanced at Toby, who looked back at her with those loyal eyes, and knew they had to handle this together. It was time to form a plan. Jane decided to help Toby in caring for the baby squirrel, ensuring it received proper food and warmth. She researched how to care for young squirrels and gathered supplies. Jane set up a cozy box with soft bedding and kept it near Toby's bed. She also prepared small amounts of appropriate food and warmed milk for the baby squirrel. Together, they would give this tiny creature the best chance at survival. She researched how to care for a baby squirrel and gathered necessary supplies. She spent hours reading articles and watching videos on proper feeding and nest making. Armed with this new knowledge, Jane felt more prepared to help Toby care for their tiny guest. She ordered a special squirrel formula, heating pads, and soft blankets. Every item she gathered was chosen with the baby squirrel's comfort and health in mind. Jane created a small, comfortable nest for the squirrel close to Toby's bed. She lined a shoebox with soft fabric and placed small, warm blankets inside. She wanted the squirrel to feel safe and loved. Placing the box where Toby could easily keep an eye on it, Jane made sure the little one had all it needed. Watching Toby's cautious but caring demeanour, Jane knew she had made the right decisions. The baby squirrel seemed more at ease with both Jane and Toby's care. It nestled comfortably in its new home, making small, contented noises. Toby frequently checked on it, his eyes full of gentle concern. Feeding times became moments of bonding, with the squirrel responding eagerly to the warmth and nourishment provided. Jane noticed how the little creature relaxed more each day, trusting its newfound family implicitly. As days passed, Jane and Toby formed a routine for the squirrel's care. Each morning, they worked together to clean the nest and prepare the squirrel's food. Toby would wake Jane up on schedule, as if reminding her of their shared responsibilities. Feeding times, play times, and nap times became synchronized. This routine not only helped the squirrel thrive, but also strengthened the bond between Jane and Toby. One morning, Jane watched Toby gently nudge the baby squirrel, ensuring it was safe and comfortable. His soft nose and tender movements were a testament to the care he had adopted. Jane couldn't help but smile as she watched him. Toby's actions were so gentle and thoughtful, almost parental. It was clear that he understood the fragility of the tiny creature he was protecting, and it warmed Jane's heart. The sight moved Jane to tears, understanding the depth of Toby's unexpected nurturing instinct. Here was her lively, playful dog exhibiting a maturity and empathy she hadn't fully realized he possessed. Each nudge and careful step spoke volumes of his dedication. Jane felt an overwhelming sense of pride and love for her furry friend, knowing that his heart was as tender as his actions. It was a moment she would cherish forever. Jane documented the journey in a personal blog, sharing her story with friends and family. She took photos and wrote about Toby's newfound role as a caregiver. The blog became a place where she expressed her emotions, fears, and joys. Posting updates about the squirrel's progress and Toby's dedication became therapeutic. Jane's heartfelt posts turned her blog into a touching chronicle of an unlikely friendship and an inspiring story of compassion. Support and encouragement poured in from those who read their heartwarming story. Friends, family, and even strangers left comments and sent messages, expressing their admiration and offering advice. Jane felt embraced by a community that shared her love for animals. The positive reactions reinforced her commitment to caring for the squirrel. Each encouraging word was a reminder that she and Toby were not alone and that their efforts were appreciated. Jane's friends and family offered advice and resources for continued care of the squirrel. Some shared tips they had learned from similar experiences, while others suggested helpful products and local wildlife rescues. Jane took notes, grateful for the abundance of suggestions. She felt more confident and supported, knowing she had a network of people who genuinely cared. This combined knowledge helped her create an even better environment for the baby squirrel. She took their advice to heart, integrating new tips into their daily routine. Jane adjusted feeding schedules, added more enriching activities, and made the nest even cozier. The improvements were noticeable. The baby squirrel became more active and responsive, clearly benefiting from the collective wisdom. Seeing the little creature thrive brought immense satisfaction to Jane. She continued to make adjustments, always seeking the best ways to support her tiny ward. Jane noticed a renewed joy in Toby's demeanour as he continued to care for the squirrel. His eyes sparkled with excitement and his tail wagged with enthusiasm. Each day, he seemed more engaged and lively, basking in the sense of purpose his new role provided. Jane couldn't help but smile as she watched Toby's newfound energy. It was as if he had discovered a new lease on life through his acts of kindness. She felt a new, deeper bond with Toby, appreciative of his innate kindness. As they navigated the care of the baby squirrel together, Jane realized just how special her furry friend was. Their teamwork and shared mission fostered a stronger relationship built on mutual trust and respect. Toby's gentle nature shone through, revealing layers of compassion Jane hadn't known existed. Their connection grew in ways Jane had never imagined possible. One evening, Jane saw the baby squirrel make its first attempts to move out of the nest. It wobbled and stumbled, its tiny legs clearly unsteady but determined. Jane gasped, calling Toby over to witness the little one's brave efforts. Toby watched with focused eyes, his body tense with anticipation. Both Jane and Toby found themselves holding their breath, silently cheering on the baby squirrel's newfound boldness and independence. Jane and Toby provided gentle encouragement, fostering the squirrel's growing independence. They nudged it carefully, guiding it back to its nest when it strayed too far. They celebrated every small victory, whether it was a new step or a longer venture from the nest. Jane used small treats and Toby's calm presence to motivate their tiny friend, hoping to instill confidence. The little squirrel seemed to thrive under their watchful eyes. The baby squirrel became stronger and more active with each passing day. It explored its surroundings with increasing curiosity and agility, spilling over with youthful energy. Jane marveled at the rapid growth and progress, while Toby remained a constant source of support and protection. Watching the squirrel's playful antics brought joy and pride to Jane, affirming that their combined efforts were making a genuine difference in the little one's life. Jane began to prepare for the eventual release of the squirrel back into the wild. She knew it was the best decision for the squirrel's long-term well-being, despite how attached she and Toby had become. Jane researched how to smoothly transition young squirrels to their natural habitat, gathering information on the best practices. She wanted to ensure the process was gradual, giving the squirrel the best chance to thrive independently. She consulted wildlife experts to ensure the transition would be safe and smooth. Jane reached out to local rehabilitation centres and spoke with specialists on squirrel behaviour and habitat needs. The expert advice she received helped her form a comprehensive plan for the release. Jane felt more confident knowing she had professional guidance, and she was determined to follow their recommendations carefully. Toby seemed to sense the importance of these preparations. Jane and Toby spent extra time with the squirrel, ensuring it was ready for independence. They engaged in activities that would prepare it for life outside, such as climbing and foraging exercises. Jane guided it through these tasks while Toby offered moral support. The bond between the trio grew deeper as their time together neared its end. Jane felt a mix of pride and sadness, knowing they were doing the right thing. The day came when Jane decided to test the squirrel's readiness for the outside world. She gently placed it in a small carrier, with Toby watching closely. They drove to a nearby park, an ideal environment for the squirrel's first taste of freedom. Jane's heart raced with anticipation and concern, while Toby's demeanour remained focused and calm. This was a significant step in their journey, and they both felt the weight of the moment. They took the baby squirrel to a local park, an environment similar to the wild. Jane found a quiet, wooded area where they could release it safely. She opened the carrier door and patiently waited, allowing the squirrel to take its time. Toby sat beside her, his eyes never leaving the little creature. After a moment of hesitation, the squirrel tentatively stepped out, sniffing the air and taking in its new surroundings. Jane watched anxiously as the squirrel explored its new surroundings. The baby squirrel moved cautiously, testing the ground beneath its tiny feet. Every step it took seemed to fill Jane with both hope and worry. She couldn't help but glance over at Toby, whose eyes remained fixed on the little creature. Together, they observed the squirrel, silently willing it to find confidence in its new environment. To her relief, the squirrel demonstrated confidence and agility in its new environment. It began to scamper around, climbing small branches and darting through patches of grass. Jane felt a sense of accomplishment seeing the squirrel adapt so quickly. Toby, too, seemed to share in the moment, sitting up a little straighter and wagging his tail. The squirrel's newfound energy was contagious, lifting the spirits of both Jane and Toby. Jane and Toby stayed close, providing reassurance and support during the transition. Whenever the squirrel looked back, Jane offered a soft whisper of encouragement, and Toby remained a steady presence. It was important for the squirrel to know they were still there for it. Jane was careful not to interfere too much, allowing the young creature to build its independence while knowing it wasn't alone in this big new world. As the days went by, the squirrel adapted well to its new home in nature. It explored deeper into the wooded area, interacting with other wildlife and finding its own food. Jane made frequent visits to check on its progress, always finding it more confident with each trip. Toby seemed proud as they watched the squirrel thrive, his protective instincts making way for a new sense of satisfaction in seeing it flourish. Jane felt immense pride and sadness as she watched the squirrel grow more independent. There was a bitter sweetness in seeing it so capable, knowing their journey together was nearing its end. Jane and Toby had shared so much with this little creature, investing time and love. The squirrel's independence was a testament to their care, but it also meant letting go. Jane cherished these moments, admiring the squirrel's strength and resilience. She realized that Toby's care had given the squirrel a second chance at life. The bond they shared went beyond simple protection. It was about survival, trust, and love. Toby's unwavering dedication had transformed the little creature's fate. Jane felt grateful for her loyal friend's instincts, knowing that without Toby, the squirrel might never have survived. This realization filled her with a deep respect for Toby's nurturing spirit and the impact he made. Jane and Toby returned home, their lives enriched by the unexpected journey they'd shared. The house felt fuller with memories of their time caring for the squirrel. Jane couldn't help but smile at Toby, who had become the unlikely hero in their story. She felt thankful for the experience, knowing it had strengthened their bond and added a layer of depth to their relationship. Their home was now a testament to compassion and unexpected connections. Jane reflected on the experience, grateful for the lessons in empathy and compassion Toby had taught her. Caring for the squirrel had opened her eyes to the kind-hearted nature of her furry companion. She realized that sometimes the most profound lessons come from the most unexpected places. As she sat beside Toby, she vowed to carry these lessons with her, remembering the importance of kindness and understanding in every aspect of her life. She decided to use their story to raise awareness about animal caregiving and unexpected bonds. Jane started writing articles and giving talks in her community, sharing the journey she and Toby had experienced. She hoped their story would inspire others to open their hearts to the unexpected. By sharing their tale, Jane aimed to promote empathy and respect for all creatures, encouraging others to look beyond first impressions and discover the hidden bonds of love. Jane recalled the initial mystery of why Toby wouldn't leave the bed, now fully understanding his actions. What once seemed like bizarre behavior was now a clear display of his innate protective instincts. The memory of those early days brought a smile to her face, knowing the entire journey had been worth it. Toby had shown her that sometimes the answers lie in the most gentle of actions and the kindest of hearts. She shared the complete story with her blog readers, revealing the surprising and heartwarming reason behind Toby's behavior. Jane wrote about Toby's unwavering dedication to the baby squirrel and how they both had embarked on an unexpected journey of care and compassion. Her detailed recounting of events captivated readers who were eager to learn not only what Toby had done, but also the profound impact it had on their lives. Her readers were moved by the story, spreading it further through social media and word of mouth. Comments poured in, flooding her blog with messages of support and empathy. Many shared the story with friends and family, captivated by the unexpected bond between Toby and the baby squirrel. Jane's tale quickly went viral, reaching people far and wide who found solace and inspiration in the simple yet powerful narrative of kindness. Jane received an outpouring of support and personal stories from others inspired by Toby's actions. Readers wrote to her, sharing their own experiences with animals displaying unexpected kindness. These heartfelt messages created a sense of community among Jane's followers, all united by the shared belief in the power of compassion. Jane felt deeply moved by the connections formed through her blog, grateful for the positive ripple effect Toby's actions had caused. She connected with a local animal rescue organisation, becoming a volunteer to help other animals in need. Inspired by Toby's actions, Jane wanted to give back and make a difference in the lives of more animals. She started dedicating her weekends to the rescue centre, working with other volunteers to provide care and support. Jane found a new sense of purpose in this work, driven by the desire to honour Toby's compassionate spirit. Toby and Jane continued their lives, now with a deeper bond and new purpose. Their shared experience with the baby squirrel had touched them profoundly, reinforcing the strength of their connection. Toby remained a loyal companion, always by Jane's side as they embarked on new adventures together. Their days were filled with joy, knowing they had made a significant impact on a small life and had found greater meaning in their journey. They revisited the park periodically, sometimes spotting the squirrel thriving in its natural habitat. On their strolls, Jane and Toby would look for signs of their little friend, always delighted to see it growing stronger and more independent. These moments filled them with pride and satisfaction, knowing they had played a part in the squirrel's survival. It was a special reminder of their unique bond and the lasting impact of their care. Jane felt a renewed sense of fulfillment, knowing they had made a positive impact on the squirrel's life. Each visit to the park reinforced the success of their efforts as they watched the squirrel thrive. Jane found peace and joy in these moments, grateful for the experience that had brought them closer together. Toby's actions had shown her the incredible potential for kindness and compassion within all creatures, strengthening her belief in these values. Toby remained a hero in Jane's eyes, his actions a testament to the kindness animals can show. She often recounted the story to friends and new acquaintances, highlighting Toby's gentle and protective nature. His unwavering dedication had transformed their lives, and Jane couldn't help but admire him every day. Toby's heroic act had not only saved a life, but had also taught Jane invaluable lessons about empathy, loyalty, and the power of unexpected bonds. The experience strengthened Jane's belief in the power of unexpected friendships and compassion. She reflected on how a simple act of protection had transformed the lives of both Toby and the baby squirrel. It reinforced her commitment to always be open to new connections and to support those in need. The bond between Toby and the squirrel had shown her that friendships could form in the most surprising ways, and that kindness could bridge any gap. Jane and Toby moved forward, forever changed by their incredible week-long journey of care and discovery. Their lives were enriched with the memories of their time with the baby squirrel, a testament to the power of compassion. As they continued their adventures, the lessons they learned stayed with them, driving Jane to always seek out opportunities to help and connect. Together, they faced the world with hope and an unbreakable bond, ready for whatever came next.